All right, welcome Highview. Uh, this is exciting because it's a new year, and this is a series on change. Uh, wow. Um, I'm a little bit how shall I put this? I'm a little bit nervous about these two episodes. I'm doing episode 1 this week and episode 2 next week. Yearning for change, and I'm a little nervous for this reason. I'm excited but nervous because in these episodes they're going to end right at the end with Dr. Bill goes for counseling. Um, I'm going to go to a live counseling session in Alberta, yes, Alberta, Canada, to a real counselor about a real issue that I'm wrestling with. The issue this week is going to be on weight loss. Next week is far more dangerous. I am going to talk to a counselor about um, being a better husband and some specifics there. So here we go. I've never done this. Not the going to counseling. I've gone to counseling a lot, especially the journey over John. But I've never done this in terms of weaving it together with a sermon on change, with two sermons on change. And so we're going to weave together some very intriguing theology with basically some good science about behavioral change. All right, that's where we're headed. Yearning for change, and a butterfly is a beautiful symbol of that. Episode 1 this week is all about envisioning new worlds, envisioning change, and how does it work? Well, if you talk about New Year's resolutions and you symbolize that in terms of a butterfly, here's what's left of the butterfly after only 1 month. Yeah, into February. All the research shows that New Year's resolutions work for about 1 month, and then only 20% of people are continuing on in the New Year's resolutions. Now you can just imagine what that looks like towards the end of the year. Abysmal. But whether or not you do New Year's resolutions, and I don't. If you do, that's fine, but I don't. But I'm very much intrigued by change, and I'm very much yearning for change in my life. And as we'll discover, our God is very much God involved in change. But it's hard. We get stuck, like Pooh Bear. We get stuck, and we need help to get out. I'm going to talk a little bit about that next week, about people help. But we get stuck in change, and it's tough. So what does Scripture have to say about change? Well, we're not going to explore every text, but we're going to explore a couple of key texts. And one of the best change texts, I think, in the Bible, we could call it the best butterfly verse in the Bible. The best bodacious butterfly verse in the Bible, I think, is 2 Corinthians 3:18. But we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, we all are being transformed. We're being changed into the same image, from glory to glory, from one degree of glory to another degree of glory, just as from the Spirit, just as from the Lord, the Spirit. 2 Corinthians 3:18, a wonderful text about transformation, about metamorphosis. And our change word comes in that language about being transformed. In fact, it is based upon the Greek metamorphomai, which is related very much to our English metamorphosis. So we're being metamorphosized. We are being changed. And we're being changed into people who are, I would say, lopsidedly loving. Not just loving people, but as we as we become more like Christ and as we become more like the God of the mountain, the Exodus mountain, where Moses saw God's glory, and that glory was not simply a visual display, but it was a display of the character of God. The character of God, which is so outweighted towards love, is so lopsidedly weighted towards love and forgiveness and grace and slowness to anger. You know, thousands to one, proportionally disproportionate in terms of a loving and waiting and a loving and gracious God. And that is the metamorphosis that is going on. Now, what is intriguing, particularly for this week, as we're looking at envisioning change, is that look what happens. We have a role to play in this. We need to do some of the looking and thinking and envisioning this change and envisioning how the God thing works within us. We all with unveiled face, beholding, we're looking, we're seeing, we're envisioning, yes, this change. Well, that's where we're headed this week. And it's a tough thing. Change. Oh, change is hard. The reason we don't do a lot of change is because we get stuck. We get stuck. And we push on that gas pedal, and sometimes, some days, I have to admit, I'm stuck. The two things I'm working on, and we'll work on at the end in our live counseling session, live recorded counseling session, are two areas of change that I'm struggling with. I can't seem to move forward, and I need to get some insight and some help. And that's what we're going to do. One of my favorite movies is that called The Game. It's a movie by Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. It's one of my favorite movies, and it's got a great section in there where Michael Douglas is toying. He's a wealthy millionaire, and one of the things that's happening in his life is that wealth is hurting other people, but it's also destroying him. And this is a whole movie about opening the eyes. That's a great line in there. Once I was blind, but now I see. Let's look at this clip, and then we'll come back.
No. Last time I played Pebble, I swore I'd never pick up another club again.
Well, speaking about games, I couldn't help but overhear you talking about CRS. Well, the reason I mention it is I took the test today at the Montgomery Street office.
You did? Kudos. So yours hasn't started yet?
No, not yet. That was one of the questions I had for you. What is it?
What is it?
The eternal question.
No, I envy you. I wish I could go back and do it for the first time, all over again. Here's to new experiences. Oh, if you'll excuse me, I gotta go. Good night, Ted. Nicholas.
Nice to meet you. So you played recently?
Oh, about a year ago. I was working in Los Angeles.
I hear the London office is very good, too. Sounds like a lot of fantasy role-playing nonsense, though.
You want to know what it is? What it's all about? John, chapter 9, verse 25.
I haven't been to Sunday school in a long time.
Whereas once I was blind, now I can see. Good night, Nicholas. Best of luck.
Good night.
I gotta love that movie, The Game. Once I was blind, but now I see. We need, in making change, we need to envision the difference. And that's why Michael Douglas had to go through what he did in order to see the difference and to see how riches were not, he wasn't handling well in his life, and they were actually hurting more. Change happens when we can envision that change, when we can see our worlds differently. And there are basically a couple of things that we need to envision in change. One element is bad, and the other element is the better. We need to envision both the bad and the better. And we need to envision the bad within our present world, our own lives, and the better of a future world that we can think about where we'd like to change, what it would look like in terms of something better. And I gotta love that movie, The Game, because it correlates with very much with the text in Laodicea, and let's talk about Laodicea going for counseling, change counseling. Laodicea goes for change counseling, and they are going to be given a set of glasses by the apocalyptic seer. In the book of Revelation, John gives them a set of glasses and says, you got an issue with wealth. It's becoming, a danger. It's hurting you. It is hurting other people. And what he does is he brings it right out in the open. Let me read Revelation chapter 3 and verse 17. You congregation at Laodicea, very rich, wealthy congregation, you say, I am rich, I have acquired wealth and need not a thing. But here you don't see. You have not crossed the Rubicon in terms of seeing even the problem. But you don't realize that you are wretched, pitiful, poor, blind, and naked. I counsel you to buy gold refined in fire, so that you may become rich. Buy gold. What he's saying is that these Laodiceans are in fact poor. They are rich monetarily, but they are poor. And so what John does in this book is to give them a vision, is to help them envision change. And he does so with two visions within the book. One is of Babylon, the city of Babylon, and the city of Babylon comes down. It's coming down. And John paints that city as the wealthiest city, and huge, tremendous language and intricacies of painting that city of wealth. And what he's saying is he's not talking about something, in the abstract. He is pointing to that vision to say to Laodicea, Babylon has her hooks in you, and you have your hooks in Babylon. And that's not really good. That's destructive to you. It's destructive to your faith, and it's hurting other people. It's not loving, and it's certainly not lopsidedly loving. Laodicea has a problem with wealth. They're not giving it away. They're not just using some of it for sustaining their own families, but also giving away to help others. That is what God gives us wealth for. And he gives them a vision of the bad and how it's destructive and the need for change, but also gives them a vision of the better in the New Jerusalem. And the New Jerusalem is cast with streets of gold and all of these different kinds of precious stones that are really amazing. In order to tell something, once again, to Laodicea, buy riches that will endure. Buy riches that will endure to the New Jerusalem. The riches and wealth of this world are going down. And you really have your values put in the wrong spot. You need to change. But in order to do that, you need a vision of what that change looks like. And envisioning change is really very significant. Well, I wanted to envision change for my life. This week about weight issues, next week about marriage issues, and let me talk about that a bit. Next week is episode 2, Yearning for Change, episode 2, and we'll talk about tips, techniques, and traps. And I will go on once again at the end of the sermon to go for counseling. And you'll see it. And surely this is to inspire all of us to be a community of change. But this week we are definitely in episode 1, and we're talking about envisioning change as a powerful mechanism. I've read a lot of material in preparation for this, but over the years in terms of change, and the one thing that comes through repeatedly is that change will never happen unless the person wanting to change can envision it. And right now I'm stuck in a couple places of having a hard time envisioning. Well, that's an introduction to next week, but I also want to talk a little bit about, before we go into the change scene, about stages of change. Just to say, I'm going to throw a bonus out there. Okay, I'm going to get Derek, if at all possible, to post an extra excerpt, an extra Dr. Bill Goes for counseling, just with this gentleman out west who will take us through the 5 stages of change, and that'll help you understand the counseling sessions that I go through myself, and some of the things that we're wrestling with, and it'll also help you understand the movie, and should you want to watch it at some point, you'll understand you can pinpoint exactly in the stage process where the main player is in relationship to the issue of riches. All right, so that's an interim little homework assignment for those who want it, and then next week we're going to take the topic further. But right now, let's jump back into Dr. Webb, Dr. Bill Goes for Counseling. I am nervous here, and I don't get nervous with speaking not much anymore, but I'm nervous because this is this is real, and I need to wrestle with how to see things differently in my life, and especially weight issues. Now you might say, well, my goodness, the issue of Laodicea is a moral issue, and riches and etc. But weight, is that really moral? Well, think of it this way. If I am overweight, and I have been overweight for many years, that is not really loving myself, and certainly not loving myself in the powerful way that God wants me to, in a healthy way. And it's not loving myself and loving those around me in my community that depend on me, for friendship, that depend on me for a spousal relationship. Marilyn apparently wants to keep me going for a number of years. It's perplexing, but it's not really loving to her if I don't take care of a weight issue. And so I want to give you some of the backdrop that leads up to the particular counseling session that I'm going to. And I needed very much to envision change because I 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I was 225 pounds. And my vision eventually, as it developed, was to get into the 160s. If I could get to 160, that would be awesome. That's really my ultimate goal. 160 and keep it. But that's tough. And I've gone through a number of aspects of change, and I can unfold that a little bit next week. But here's where I sit right now. I'm in the 170s, the high 170s. Occasionally I cross the Rubicon to 180, but I'm mostly able to keep it in the 170s. I just am stuck. I can't go forward. And I have a particular issue with a particular item that I need to get out of my life, but I'm stuck. so, so that's what I'm going to get into with my counselor this week. Um, this is a moral issue. This is an issue of love, loving myself and loving others around me, and loving the God who has made me and created me, not to honor Him with my body. Well, all right. Here's some of the backdrop that helped me envision change. A friend of mine, a friend, very close friend, was diagnosed with liver failure, or at least on the verge of it. It was starting to shut down, and he became aware of something called internal fat, and so gave me research that he was reading on internal fat, what the doctor was telling him. And all of a sudden I came to realize that internal fat is much more important than external fat, the blubber on the outside, because internal fat wraps around your organs and starts to kill your organs. I watched a CBC program on internal fat, and a CBC program on the string test. And the string test is fascinating. You take a piece of string and you put it from the top of your head to your toes. Okay, from the top of your head to your toes. And then you fold that string in half, and you take that string and you wrap it around your waist, the biggest part of your waist. Don't suck your waist in, just let it hang nicely. I had a lot. And you see if the two ends of the string will touch. Didn't happen with me. Okay, that is, this has been well documented research, that if that's not true, then your internal fat around your organs is becoming destructive. And I had some pretty good conclusive push around me. So I've been on this journey, but I'm at a stage in this journey where I need to go further, and I'm stuck. So here we're going to jump into, and I'm a little nervous, we're going to jump into Dr. Bill Goes for Change Counseling. And the topic is cream in my coffee. Can I get it out? On this computer, and yeah. So Russ, I want to come to you with this issue or problem that I do really want to change. This is a real live issue, and I'm going to start small because I don't want to be overly vulnerable here, but I need to get down to the 160s weight-wise, and I need to get this coffee cream. I've got 5 or 6 of these down in the fridge down there. I love cream in my coffee, and I love table cream. I've had it in my coffee all my life, and
Yeah.
one time we didn't have cream, and I woke up and I couldn't find it. It was COVID, so Marilyn didn't want me to go out and get some, and so okay, I drank black coffee. Oh, it was disgusting. So I know I'm out of the pre-contemplation. I'm wrestling with this change. I'm in the contemplation, and I'm in the struggle.
So
and
here's,
it's real. I want to make this change.
it's really simple, Bill. Just stop using cream in your coffee. Just stop it.
Hey, come on! That you mocked that earlier. That was what you called the "just stop it" move or something. Just change.
Well, it's just stop it therapy, right?
The Nike, just do it, as if change is going to happen like that. I've been struggling with this for a while, and so walk me through some moves here.
So you're beyond pre-contemplation. You know that you want to live differently, and that's useful, right? And you're in this ambivalence. There's a part of you that wants it, and there's a part of you that wants the change, and there's part of you that doesn't want the change. Yeah. And usually when we're analyzing that part and that phase, there's actually 4 different areas. It's kind of like a chart. There's the positives. That's right. There's positives of remaining the same. The positives are remaining the same. Those positives are remaining the same. It's realizing there's positives to continuing to use your cream.
There sure is. I like my coffee better.
And those positives actually hook you into continuing to do the old way. But there's also negatives of continuing.
Kind of like Laodicea and trying to be pulled out of Babylon. No, they like their riches. Okay. Yep.
So there's positives of remaining the same. There's also negatives of change. And so change isn't particularly easy. We pretend it is, but it isn't always easy. And the negatives of change, those two become motivations for staying right where you are, motivations against change. And we need to look at what those motivations are. And then there are, of course, the positives of change, which you kind of highlighted already in terms of weight loss, and the positives change that you've highlighted that are the weight loss, and realizing that cream isn't necessarily the best and be all of what it is that you want for yourself. And a little on the negatives of continuing to be the same. So the problem is that sometimes the negatives, this kind of change that you're talking about with the cream, can be actually a harder change, partially because the negatives aren't that extreme.
Right.
You know, you're kind of, it's a fine-tuned change.
Yeah, it's kind of like I get up in the morning, I feel you know, about this change, I feel meh. But I really do want to drop into the 160s, and this does need to go.
If you poured in cream, and every time you poured in cream in your coffee and you drank that coffee, you really automatically gained 2 pounds every single time. Ooh. If the consequence was that every time you had a cup of coffee with some cream in it, you gained 2 pounds. And so you have 3 cups of coffee in a day, well, you just gained 6 pounds. And you gain 6 pounds every day that you had coffee with cream in it. The consequence would be much bigger, and your motivation for change would be much higher, right? So when we're talking about even fine-tuning motivation, so this is this involves the envisioning, right? And so I don't know, when you think of your life without cream, can you envision falling in love with coffee without cream?
I can't. And what I stumbled onto was a conversation with you that messed me up, because apparently you have a coffee mug. What do you got in there?
Well, I got
a little bit of black left.
A little bit of my black coffee still left.
You did the change. So how did you make that change? Because you used to love cream, right?
Yeah. I use cream my whole life. Yeah.
I know.
So let's be clear, Bill. The fault is our parents, obviously. Just had to throw that.
Yeah, let's just put it there. Yeah. Yeah.
And so right. We'll just continuously blame, and then continue in our behavior.
That's right. We can't change. We never will. And of course, we're men, and we'll only change if we have
to.
Red, green.
So the process, in terms of, you're in the contemplation, but you're dipping into preparation. And in preparation, this is where we start to experiment. But we need to envision. How do I start to fall in love with it? And in preparation, it's like, well, maybe I need to try different types. In preparation, maybe I need to try different types of coffee. And so I'm going to experiment with different types of coffee that are black. Maybe not all coffees are the same.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's good. That's good.
And maybe I need to incorporate elements of support. How can my wife and I, Tina and I, is there a possibility of us doing this together, and as a journey? And we kind of commiserate. And what I found in terms of
commiserate and congratulate, if
yes,
it's on the good side.
and what I found is that that when it comes to this change, it is that coffee has different tastes. That coffee has different tastes depending upon the temperature of the coffee. It actually changes its flavor. So if I have my cup of coffee that's black right at the very beginning, I can't stand it.
Oh, interesting.
It's very acidic. But if so in the morning, one of the experiments that I did, it's like, okay, I get my cup of coffee and I put an ice cube in it. And
I do that with something else, but I can't really say that too openly. Ice and other things works too. I didn't know that. Okay, so you stick an ice cube in.
Stick an ice cube in just to get it down to the temperature where the flavor starts to change. And then of course, as it gets colder, it can be too cold. Right? So, but too hot doesn't work for me. So it's figuring out the temperature. It's looking at what are the variables that to envision the kind of flavor I would like to have. I'm still in a process of experimentation. I'm not through this change pattern either. Yes, I'm drinking coffee, but I'm actually still experimenting with, I want to try some other types of coffee.
Wow. You mean maybe I'll get into maintenance phase before you?
Yeah, it's possible. Do you find
this is eye-opening. I didn't know that, and what causes me to think about this is not only temperature differentiations, but of course different kinds of coffee. And I've heard, I've seen the blonde coffee and I've seen the others, and I've always liked my one or two brands, but man, if I have them right out of the state, the starting gate, hot and no cream, they are bitter, and that cream mellows it sufficiently, and maybe takes the temperature down too a little bit.
Well, the cream does take temperature down, yeah.
So the first thing I need to start doing is envision the possibility. And here's one thing that's been clunking around in the back of my head, helping me with the envisioning, is I did make a big change like this before with coffee, and that is at a certain point years ago, I moved from sugar in my coffee, where I actually did three spoonfuls of sugar in my coffee every single day. I had sugar with my coffee, or I had coffee with my sugar or something like that. So, and I look back and I think, it tastes dreadful now.
Yes.
If I put even a bit of sugar in, I can't have it. It does. So I'm thinking I probably would get over this, but the added element of experimentation is very helpful.
So that's a huge motivator for change, partially in a sense of realizing if I have made change in the past, that helps me to uncover clues about how to make change in the future. So it's like, okay, how did I do that? What are the things that I did right? What can I learn from it? It wasn't an easy change before. And now as I live in the newness, in my new life, I realize, wow, I can't believe I used to be that, right? And so that's significant change, even though, it is kind of, and the World Health Organization has declared that sugar is an addictive substance.
Oh, is
And
that right?
oh yeah.
Mm.
And so, the amount of sugar that we have in our lives, we can't avoid it, but trying to keep it so that we don't actually engage. We don't want to engage the sugar addictive process, right? And yeah, if you're having 2 or 3 cups of coffee a day, that's 6 to 9 teaspoons of sugar a day, let alone sugar in other products. So yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Russ, on this?
Well, it is then, you may want to engage Marilyn in this process.
Right. You're saying
want,
bringing others with us in the journey helps.
if you were,
Probably a good thing about church is we can help each other in these journeys. Yeah.
I wish that when we're doing this kind of change, when we can find models who have also changed. So, for example, the fact that I've changed challenges you, but there's all kinds of models within the church community in terms of, so who has made this change, who no longer struggles with this, but did struggle with it at one point in time, right. And how do I and engaging, and part of that is the envisioning process. If I can go, Bill changed this, and how did he do that? And it's like, if he can do that, surely I can do that. And
that's part of what I'm wrestling with. I saw you made this change, and
exactly.
And by the way, the change in weight also, in part, it was several people, but your movement and big drop in weight helped me say, well, if Russ can do it,
Exactly.
But something's going on here, and you've been very helpful in that. Well, I'd like to close off on the coffee. It's so nice to drink coffee with cream during this counseling session about getting cream out of my coffee. Thanks, Russ.
You're welcome, Bill. Take care.
And we're back. Wow, I'm exhausted going to that change counseling, but we all, with unveiled face, beholding as in the mirror the glory of the Lord, the lopsidedly loving God in Christ and in the Spirit, we too are engaged in making changes. And I'd like to just throw out the challenge and say, hey, is there anything this year that you want to do for change? We'll see you next week. Oh my goodness, that topic next week. Change in my marriage. Oh, we'll see you. God bless.